Morning folks, welcome back to UK Here We Grow. The end of June, beginning July is typically the time that we need to consider in netting our fruit that was pollinated back in the spring just a few short weeks ago. Now whether you have just a blueberry bush or a whole fruit garden like myself, now is the time to get this job done. It is a must. Because if we want to taste the benefits of our hard work and stop the birds from having a feed, then now is the time to get this done. Now, some people build elaborate cages designed to stay in place permanently, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can do what I've done here, and just 6 posts in the ground with a couple of rails to support the netting. Now, however you decide to do yours, there are a few fundamental rules that you need to follow to ensure that the netting stays safe and secure and prevent the birds from gaining access to your fruit. While we're on the subject of netting, I'd like to just talk to you about the netting I'm using here and why I'm using this netting. So I get my netting from Oaken Gardens, and as you know, I'm an advocate of some of their products because they are very high quality, and the netting is very, very good quality, I have to say. Now, unlike a lot of other nettings, this netting is woven, so it's very strong. You can't, don't matter how much you pull it, and I'm really giving it some welly to the point where I'm cutting my hands here, but this netting is woven, whereas a lot of other makes are stitched. Now with it being woven, it makes it very strong rather than it being weak like the stitched netting. So if you're going to get a netting, I would suggest getting something like this. This will stop birds, stop dogs, cats, whatever getting into your fruit. It is really good. But I'm just going to show you something here because I think this is quite important. So as I've already shown you, this netting's really strong, but there may be times that you'll catch it on a nail, or someone with a pair of scissors will come along who's a little bit jealous and snip it up for you, especially for an allotment. There are lots of other reasons, but I'm just going to show you something here. If I come and cut a hole, a nice big hole in this netting, okay, there's a great thing you can do with this netting because it's so strong. You can literally get yourself a few cable ties and you can replace this netting or repair this netting very easily. It's just a case of putting the holes together and cable tying it. Now, granted, it's not going to look as perfect as it was before, but if you just run a few cable ties along, and this is where I think it is really good, you can repair this netting very quickly and very easily. It's just a few cable ties. Just checking how much we got left to do. So as you can see, it really is great netting, and okay, so all we've got to do now is literally just cut off the excess on the tags. Just do that with these. So there you have it, guys. couple of cable ties, and it's repaired, and you'd hardly notice it. So it is really good, strong netting. And like I said, I've had to take a scissors to this. You may catch on a nail once or twice, but you know, I mean, it's very quick to repair. So what we're going to do now, we need to look at how we measure up this netting to get it onto the frame. So how do we find out how to measure our bed? Well, it's as simple as this. We take the length of our bed, and in this case it's 106 inches, and we take the width of our bed, and in this case we're going to use 4 feet, so 48 inches. Now we also need to know the height, okay, and for this case here we needed to come up probably around about 4 feet. We come up a bit higher, so 48, okay. Now to get your measurement correct, what you need to do, you need to take your height times 2, so that's 8 feet, okay, plus your width, which is 4 feet, so that's 12 feet. So we need a piece that's 12 foot wide. So that's your one side, your other side, and the piece across the top, okay? So that's 12 feet, guys, all right? And on this one, on the length, we got 106 inches. What's the nearest to that? Bear with me a second. That's nearly 9 feet, all right? So I'm going to use 9 feet as an example. So we need 9 feet, and then we need to add the sides for each side. So that's 4 feet each side, okay, because that's our height. So that's 8 feet. That leaves us with 17 foot. So we need a piece to make our makeshift cage here, 17 foot by 14 foot. Now, what I would suggest you do, okay, is add an extra meter to both dimensions, just to give you that little bit of play if for any reason your calculations are out with the timbers or whatever the case being. So all we need to do is take the height, the width, and the height for the width measurement, and we need to take the height, the length, and the height for the length measurement, and that's the piece of that you need to order from Oakland's or anybody else. But like I said, add that extra meter, it makes a big difference. These are pegs that also come from Oakland Gardens. They're anchoring pegs, and this is how we're going to secure the netting to the ground. Now it's important to get these the right way, and you face the hook outwards away from the bed that you're securing. Just hammer them into the ground about 8 to 10 inches apart. So to put the netting on, we need to now lay it out, and remember now, because our height is 4 or 5 feet high, we need to run it past that edge of the bed, and it's a case of just literally rolling out the netting on the floor, trying to untangle it as we go. Now when it comes in the bag from Oakland Gardens, it's going to be tied at one end, and this is where they've cut it from the roll, and it's cable tied, so you will need to cut that before we go any further. But I'm just going to make sure I've got enough each end. So all we've got to do now is get one end of it, and we will start feeding this up over the bed, and twisting it as we go. Just be mindful you don't catch it on anything like the peg. So now we have most of it over, all we need to start doing now is hooking this under the pegs. And there is a bit of a trick to this when you're tensioning it, but I'll explain that in a moment. Our first thing that we need to worry about is getting it secured under the pegs. Keep it tight as you go. Don't be afraid to move the netting to make it correct. It's really important to get this bit right. It's really important to ensure that the holes here are square and not a diamond shape. If they're not square, then the netting's not stretched correctly and it will not fit and be secure. Well guys, I hope this was of interest to you, and if it was, please give us a thumbs up, and if it wasn't, give us a thumbs down. We're happy either way. Leave all your comments in the descriptions below and we'll do our very best to answer them if you've got any questions about the netting or anything like that. The channel's got nearly 280 videos on it now, so there's loads of different videos like this. Get yourself over to the playlist and have a look there. And if you like what you see, consider hitting the subscribe button, guys, and if you do, hit the bell icon as well, and that will send you an email and let you know when we put out new videos like this. So folks, that's it for me for this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.